What's up, friends? It's Spicy Monday. I have a question. Is your actual strategic hiring plan at your MSP to only hire, recruit, train, everything, just only find true A players? Do you find yourself using language basically saying that you will only hire motivated, hungry go-getters that learn on their own and are wired to figure things out and truly understand things? Because I'm going to say this right now. If that is your only plan at your MSP, you're a fucking idiot.
Spicy Monday, time to break it down. MSP talk, ripping off the road.
All right, now that's a pretty hot, spicy Monday take. Dean, what's your problem with A players? Oh, do you hate top grading? No, I don't. A players are awesome. Top grading's a great book. But there's a difference. I have said that my BHAG goal in my career is one day to own a Ferrari, and hopefully one a little nicer than this vintage Matchbox Ferrari. However, every time I've needed a car, I don't go into the dealership with my current income and lack of Ferrari ability and go, yes, show me to the Ferraris, for those are the only cars for me. Because that would be out of touch, unrealistic, and insane. That's what I'm talking about. I don't mean that you have a dream that it would be wonderful if you could just find only A players. That's a great dream. And don't give up on that dream. And when you do occasionally find them, you grab them. But to make that your strategy is incredibly unrealistic and out of touch. And I had thought that many of you knew better than that. But, you know, stuff on Reddit recently reminded me that maybe a fair portion of this industry has forgotten that that's not real. So beyond the simple superficial things, you cannot have a team of only A players because then they're not A players. I'm literally, forget MSP for a minute, think of anything else of the team. Sports. If everybody on the team is a superstar, then no one on the team is a superstar. You all understand that, right? That there is no such thing as an all superstar team. It doesn't happen. You might have a team that for a while has a few superstars, but everybody on your team is not a superstar. You cannot have a team full of only individually excellent people because none of the team dynamics work if that is the case. And every single evidence point you can call on from any other grouping of humans backs that up. So right away, we already know if this is your strategy, you are doomed to fail. But you didn't come here because obvious evidence is going to change your mind. No. So what are some other things we might want to consider why this is not a realistic strategy? Well, a couple things come to mind right out the gate. The first thing is that basically the data that we have available in our industry from people that do salary surveys, that do hiring surveys, from the personality assessment companies a lot of us use, their data does not support that this industry is primarily made up of rock stars. So the total addressable sample size that you're trying to hire from random MSP watching this, the likelihood of you finding a rock star is about 1 in 10. And 1 in 10, and there's an asterisk in that because that's more like the likelihood of you finding a rookie that, given your team structure and coaching, will be a rock star is 1 in 10. So it's probably even a little bit less common than that. But you'll notice right away that's not a hiring strategy. You're far more likely to find competent, smooth sailing B players in this industry than you're going to find those traditional top grading A players. I've met most of you. Most MSPs of any size don't really have a comprehensive plan to actually top grade someone. So even if you were holding on to that idea, most of you don't have the structure or the ability to maintain a long-term career goal or plan for somebody to keep them around to manifest that. And that's not me picking on you. That's just the reality of our industry, the level of management maturity we have, and kind of where it is. That'll change and come back in another 10 to 15 years, and that'll probably be a little bit less of an issue, but we're not 10 to 15 years in the future. We're today. We've also got an element that does not get talked about enough, and I'll bring it back to the personality profiling and tests themselves. any test, especially any subjective test, is not going to be 100% accurate. But if we take them as being sort of generally an acceptable indicator, just like throwing some blades of grass up in the air will give you somewhat of an idea where the wind is blowing, but it's not going to predict the weather for you. Well, if we look at the last 20 years in the MSP space, what has become the biggest difference between us and the majority of the rest of the IT support space? And if you don't know the answer right off the top of your head, look at any popular media franchise that has had a traditional person in an IT support role, any of them. What do you tend to notice overall? Kind of assholes. They're portrayed as kind of being jerks. The reasoning may be more nuanced than that. Sometimes it's going to be more like Big Bang Theory and Sheldon, where it's presented as sort of accidental and maybe more a result of genius and autism than any actual, malice. Other times it is absolutely purely attributed to malice. Janet, the internet, is in this box. But if you look generally at people in an IT support role as they are, portrayed over the last 30 years in movies, TVs, and whatnot, they're kind of portrayed as jerks. When's the last time at your MSP or any other MSP you're friends with, you know of anyone on their team that fits that profile? Right. Probably no one. Because overall, because our industry is different, we are, time is our inventory, and we're specifically in the business of outsourced user support rather than in-source shared stakeholder support. That won't work. We'll lose clients. We have largely wired out and stopped hiring those types of technical support people. And if you look at where that has changed a personality profile, if I take DISC as an example, 20 years ago, in our industry, a typical tier 1 or tier 2 help desk person would have had D at or above the line in addition to some other skills, probably not I at or above the line. Their DISC profile would have been more similar to somebody who's like an SDR in a sales organization than it would be to what we currently would view as an MSP employee. If you look at a profile now, the average help desk MSP employee does not have any noticeable D. They might have some adapted D, but there's like no D. It's high I and then C or S. So, I like people and I'm detail oriented, or I'm very conscientious of other people and basically supportive. That's the type of people we have stacked our help desks with, because the ones with high D in support roles tend to have that edge to them. And that edge tends to manifest as being an asshole. And we can't really have that on our side of the space. So the other problem with that is that D is largely what powers motivated self-starters. You're not hiring people who have that personality profile, and only 1 in 10 maybe have the right mix of things to sort of emulate that behavior. It's not a realistic mindset and mentality. There, lastly, is a sort of an insidious problem, a back-end issue with this idea of having an actual strategy of I only hire motivated self-starters. And hear me out on why. If we look at an example of sort of the archetypal person that would hire this type of individual, it's kind of like that Gordon Gekko, Wolf of Wall Street style person. We're in an environment, we're all sharks, we're hungry, ring the bell, like we're all competing. I only want people who get it and want it and can manifest it. We look at that, and at face value, the lizard part of our brain is like, hey, that's cool, that makes sense, right? And so we come back and we think, well, that'll work for me. That's a cool fantasy. I know I'm not actually Gordon Gekko, but the premise makes sense. If I get motivated self-starters who are hungry, they will figure it out. They will work through it. They will power through it. They will take care of my client, and my MSP will be to the moon. Except in reality, why would you actually need somebody with that type of personality profile to make up the bulk of your stuff? Like, think about that for a minute, not emotionally, out of the Fantasyland version, objectively. Why would you need motivated self-starters as your only type of employee? Probably because all the underlying framework, process, support, and everything doesn't exist. The point is, it becomes yet another layer of excuse we put in front of actually taking some time to dial in what we are doing. If I'm everything to everybody and a complete chaos engine of an MSP, which is most MSPs that are going to subscribe to this type of mentality. Well, I mean, think about that. I could either take the time to slow down and work on myself and improve my company so that regular people could be highly successful, or I could fool myself into thinking that I'm special and only rock stars can make it work here. But most of us at our MSPs, even some of the modestly large MSPs, we are not really running world-class organizations. We're running okay organizations, not bad, but our processes, procedures, inbuilt systems, the slop, it's small entrepreneurial businesses. They're kind of a hot mess behind the scenes. They'd be a really nice hot mess and a quality hot mess, but they're still kind of a hot mess. And so you could look at that, which is kind of depressing, all the work you got to do, or you could look at it and say, well, the only people that are successful doing this are superstars, which may be true, but why don't you already have a bunch of superstars? And then why didn't they fix the hot mess? You see how this whole thing perpetuates itself? So it's also not a healthy strategy for you mentally as an owner to be in thinking that only ringers are going to be how you can grow your company, because you're going to set yourself up to fail the minute the absence of the ringers happens to you. And then you'll be like us, very sad in New England that we have nothing and nobody. All our teams are terrible now. And for some stupid reason, we're giving away all of the good players from our other teams. I don't know what's happening here. Don't be like us. Oh, and everything we just said, even if you are an incredibly highly organized, high process environment that is so smooth and curated, a true high performing, like A++ person could come in and knock it out of the park, you probably still aren't, because everything we just talked about, even this idea of Wolf of Wall Street hiring those people, goes against everything we know about basic human psychology. There really is no such thing as the alpha wolf. I mean, literally, that's not even true. Go look it up. That's fun, Google. That's not a thing. There is no such thing as an alpha employee. There can be people that have a unique set of characteristics that in a given moment can sort of put that costume on and masquerade as that for a while, maybe even for a long time. But humans in general, as a resource, are not built that way. That's not how we function. Yes, we're individualistic. Yes, we are designed to be self-reliant and creative and to iterate and design things. But as a species, if you look at all the psychological foibles and fumbles that you can make, none of that really aligns to somehow only having these like AAA alpha players. That's not real. You're not even one of them. I know that hurts, because you're pretty cool and you started a company out of nothing and built it up to the point where you're employing other people, which is objectively awesome. None of us are that person. So let's just stop using that language and maybe identify what we really want to have at our company, and maybe take a little bit of work to make our MSPs a little bit more organized for normal people to have that level of success. Because I will tell you, that is absolutely possible. You can hire regular people, just regular normal people, and they can have a level of success and output as an alpha level person and still be normal. It's possible. Just got to put in a little bit of work. Have a great Monday, everybody.